Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today we've got Matteo Franceschetti on the show. Matteo, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Of course, I read through your bio, but a lot of times guests introduce themselves better than me just reading off the page. So who is Matteo?
I'm the CEO and co-founder of 8 Sleep. We develop a technology that improves your sleep performance. So it comes in the form factor of a mattress cover or the whole mattress. It changes your body temperature while you're asleep to help you fall asleep faster and get more deep sleep. And it tracks everything about your health. So sleep, heart rate, respiration, and everything. And then it coaches you to improve your sleep performance and overall health.
Awesome. And so how did you get into this? I mean, I read about it. You struggled with sleep a little bit and you started to realize how important that is. And maybe I was just excited for this interview because I usually sleep really well, but last night I was like waking up every few hours. So this is perfect timing for me to dive in. But how did you end up upon this idea and starting this company?
Yeah, I used to be an athlete when I was a teenager. I was a tennis player, and then I did a bunch of other sports. So I have always been into performance and recovery. And so around 5 years ago, I started looking at sleep and I started wondering why Elon Musk is taking me to Mars, but I still spend a third of my life on a piece of dumb foam. And so I started looking at medical research and try to understand what's going on with our sleep. And so our vision today is we want to compress your sleep and save your life. Compress your sleep means what if you could sleep only 6 hours and get more rest than when you were sleeping 8 hours? And saving your life means during that time, which even if it's 6 hours, it's still a lot of time. What else can we do? And our idea is to really scan your body while you're asleep to detect early signs of illnesses or just to provide advice about how you can live a healthier and longer and more energized life.
That's amazing. So when you say scan the body for potential illnesses, what kind of illnesses are there? Like certain ones that are more prevalent whenever you do those types of scans?
Yes, I mean, it could really be anything happening in your body. We are looking at exploring different technologies. The end goal would be, could we detect cancer in 5-10 years from now while you're asleep, early stage of cancer in particular, or
Right.
cysts, kidney stones, or anything else.
Cool. Kidney stones as well. You can detect all those types of things.
Yeah, that's the goal. So that's what we're working towards. Obviously, we don't do it yet, but
It's on
there
the
are
way.
certain technologies that are really promising to get there.
Absolutely. So when did you guys start the company, and what's been one of the biggest challenges that you've faced since you started?
So we launched with the first product in 2015.
Okay.
We faced a lot of challenges, like any hardware company, probably. Obviously, hardware is really hard.
Yeah.
You need to be able to plan, know the manufacturing really well. Obviously, you move at a slower pace than when you just do software. So once you build the product, it's built.
Right.
It's obviously way more cash flow consuming. And the difference is with software, you can iterate way faster to find product market fit. With hardware, is way harder. Then at the end of the day, we were lucky to find our own product market fit and things are going well.
That's good. Yeah, I did have a little experience with trying to manufacture a product before, and gosh, you spend so much money, time, and effort before it's even ready to sell. So I know you went through that yourself. And I was listening to you on another podcast earlier, and you guys were on Indiegogo first. Is that correct? I think I remember hearing that.
Yeah, we started on Indiegogo. We sold the first product in pre-orders. We sold, I think, around 8,000 units in pre-orders. That is the time when I had to move to China to go and fix manufacturing.
Yeah.
And then we came back, and from there we kept scaling. Now we have a team in China that is on top of everything.
Awesome. And how has everything been with just like the supply chain issues? Have you run into some challenges with delays and things like that? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, a bit less about delays. We were lucky on that side, but the cost
Have gone up. Yeah.
has gone up. We had to airship a bunch of units to make sure we had everything for the holidays. The cost of both air shipping and ocean shipping went up meaningfully. So it's a complicated business. It's also exciting because it changes all the times, but obviously you need to be on top of your financials.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it kind of gives you those new problems and challenges to solve, and it keeps things interesting instead of if you really had everything automated and figured out 100%, you might lose a little bit of interest and try starting other things on the side. But because it keeps you on your toes, you're constantly showing up for it. So in terms of sleep, I'm sure you've done a lot of research or you've read into tons of research on the importance of it. I know a lot of people don't understand how important it is, or they're like, oh, sleep. Yeah, I'll sleep when I'm dead, right? Do you have any statistics that are really like wow and powerful that our listeners can maybe understand how important sleep is and understand why we need to get better sleep every single night?
Yeah, I mean, first, I think there is a very good trend in consumers that they are understanding more and more the importance of sleep. I think in the 80s and the 90s, there was, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And some entrepreneurs were, were proud of saying that they were sleeping only 4 hours. I think today the sleep deprivation is like the new smoking. So if you're an entrepreneur and you say, oh, I sleep only 4 hours, you're just not taking care of yourself, right? So you're the equivalent of the new smoking. All in all, I mean, your health is based on three pillars. It's based on sleep, which is foundational, then nutrition, and then fitness. Mm-hmm. And sleep is really the foundation, because if you start sleeping 2 hours a night for a week, then you're not going to train and do any fitness, and you will start craving junk food and carbs and everything else just to compensate for your sleep deprivation. Then there is plenty of evidence of how sleep has an impact on heart rate, diabetes, hypertension, longevity overall, Parkinson. There is actually a really good book written by Professor Matthew Walker that is called Why We Sleep. And I recommend everyone to read it. It's really entertaining and engaging, so don't expect something boring that is like a documentary. It's actually a really cool book based on data and stats that explains you in a very simple way why sleep matters. And why taking care of your sleep will help you live a longer and more energized life. Actually, our whole tagline as a company at 8 Sleep is fitness. And so we think of sleep in the same way. You should think of sleep in the same way you think of going to the gym. You need to put the effort. This is an activity that will pay off over time to keep you healthy and energized. In the same way you force yourself to go to the gym and train every day, force yourself to go and try to sleep between 7 and 9 hours every single day.
Yeah, I love that. I wrote that down. Sleep is fitness, or just making it as routine as exercising. Because most people, like you said, I guess it's trending more towards understanding sleep's important. Everyone already knows you got to exercise, you got to eat right. But I also never really thought of it in that way that you just mentioned, that sleep is kind of the foundation, almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but sleep being at the bottom. Because if you're lacking sleep, if you're cranky and tired, you're going to be groggy. You're going to make bad decisions, whether it's food or for your business, right? You're probably not going to go exercise if you only slept an hour last night. So that's a really good way of looking at it. I really appreciate that. So for your customers that get on board, how quickly do they start seeing results and start to like dive into the analytics of how they're sleeping? I assume it's probably in the first week, right?
Yeah, the first week usually is already when they start seeing the improvements, right? We see people falling asleep up to 20% faster. They get up to 40% more deep sleep. They get 40% less toss and turns and wake ups in the middle of the night. And the interesting thing is a lot of our customers, they use other wearable devices, and sometimes they report this data through other devices. And we are completely fine, because that is a sort of double validation.
Yep.
And then the biggest aha moment is the first time our customers travel, because you get used to temperatures so naturally. Then after a couple of nights, this is just the new norm, right? But the first time you travel and you sleep in a damp bed again, with all the foam absorbing your heat and fighting with your partner because the partner has a different temperature preference and it's too hot and too cold, that is when people say, oh, where is my 8 Sleep? And that is the biggest aha moment.
That's awesome. So for the 8 Sleep product, is it very like portable, or is it like once it's on the bed, it kind of stays on the bed?
Yeah, it's hard to move it.
Okay.
We see a lot of customers buying multiple, but it's hard to move it easily. Then again, there are two form factors. One is a cover, so you can just install it onto your own mattress, and so no need to change the mattress. Or you're already looking for a mattress in the market, just buy the Lamborghini of mattresses, which is ours with all our technology.
Awesome. Okay, so you do have the cover as well as the Lamborghini version, the full mattress with all the technology, which I assume, yeah, that gets hard to move because mattresses get heavy. And I mean, recently, like we had my fiance and I moved to Denver, and we didn't have a mattress, we didn't bring any furniture, and we slept on an air mattress for like 4 days. Of like, okay, we got to do something. But once we got the mattress and we installed it, it was just, it's so heavy. Like, I don't want to really have to move that again for as long as possible, right?
Yeah.
So I totally understand that, but that makes sense as well. People buying multiple for guest bedrooms or multiple bedrooms in the house type thing. So very good stuff. So what's something that is maybe like a surprise that people don't realize when they start using the 8 Sleep product? Is there something that sticks out where they reach out and they're like, oh my gosh, this happened, I can't believe it? Like, is there anything other than obviously better sleep, deeper sleep?
I would say the funniest is how much we help couples, because again, personal temperature is very personal.
Yeah.
And we see somewhere between 50 and 70% of the couples fighting around temperature, because usually there is one partner who wants it really warm and the blanket and not the temperature in the bedroom not to be too cold, and the other side who instead is always hot. And so by solving that problem, you know, some customers say, oh, you saved my marriage.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an interesting side statistic, is how many marriages have you saved because of that? I mean, funny enough, I went to a conference, this was years ago, with a friend, and he invited me last minute and was like, hey, you want to split a hotel room, you know, 2 queen beds. And this guy had the temperature like 65 degrees in there, and I was freezing. You know, he kind of paid for the room at first and I paid him back, but it was almost like that. I could see couples fighting, because if somebody likes the temperature 15 degrees colder than the other, that person's going to complain. It does cause some conflict, because I was like, okay, I can do this for one night, but if I had to do this every day, that would be very, very challenging, because I was like shivering at night, you know?
Yeah. We see that all the times, and in particular between men and women, there is a big difference, but across temperature is different based on your gender, your percentage of body fat, your metabolism, if you train or not during the day, particularly in the afternoon. So your core body temperature can be different. For women, is also different during pregnancy or during the period. Obviously, it's very different during the menopause, when women have hot flashes. And so there is no high variability in how you should take care of your temperature during the night. Because the other key thing is, when you hear people saying, or you read articles saying, oh, you should sleep right in your bedroom, that's bullshit. And the reason is your body temperature changes during the night. And so 68 degree could be right for 1 hour out of 8, but for the other 7 hours, you might need 79, or you could need 67.5, whatever. For sure, it's not going to be the same temperature during the whole night.
Interesting. So the analytics, does it take into account, you know, body weight, gender, those types of things, so it can give you a customized recommendation on the settings?
Yeah, and more than anything, we really learn from you specifically, so you can keep giving us feedback, and the algos, they just improve over time based on your preferences, but they also adjust, I don't know, based on weather. Let's say you are in New York and there is a snowstorm, temperature gets way colder. At that point, we will suggest a different temperature.
Very interesting. Okay. So, I mean, this is so much, this is all new to me, because I've just been sleeping on a regular mattress. Okay, I got a better pillow, so I now my neck doesn't hurt in the morning, but these little things, these little tweaks go a long way over time. So that's what I'm definitely learning here. But where do you guys see 8 Sleep going? I mean, I imagine obviously your vision is to have everybody using 8 Sleep, everybody tracking their metrics, sleeping better, performing better overall. Do you have like a vision for the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, we want to tackle everything that has an impact on your sleep, right? Because if we want to compress sleep down to 6 hours, we need to tackle everything. So not just temperature. We want to go for light and noise and air, everything you can think of. And then at the same time, there is this preventative health part of our vision, which is, okay, how can we embed more sensors to be able to track more about your body and save your life over time? The beauty of our product is people keep using it daily for many years, 6 to 10 years. You don't do it with your phone. You don't do it even with your MacBook or computer, right? Mm-hmm. So we are one of a kind hardware product that has this incredible retention, and the key is to be able to leverage that to help you live a longer and healthier life.
I really love that. That's a good mission. And being able to, the preventative piece, being able to somewhat predict or identify, red flags. That was something, my doctor mentioned at the latest physical is like, hey, so around your age, 31, you might want to get like a heart rate or I think it was like a heart rate monitor or like a blood monitor. I forgot exactly what he said, but he did say that is one of those things that people forget about. And it's almost like high blood pressure. That's what it was. It's something that people catch too late, when if you just check it, every couple of months on your own, you can catch things before it becomes a problem down the road. So there's a lot of value to what your mission is of being able to get into that preventative space and identifying things before they become a big issue.
Yeah, and that's what we're working on. We just built an incredible R&D team with a lot of expertise in sensors and sensing and health in general. So you will keep seeing more and more software updates.
Very exciting, very exciting. So I assume you use this product and you've used it since the very beginning. How has that changed over time? All the bells and whistles. Has it been pretty similar for the last few years, or was it like totally different from version 1?
So major change was in 2019 when we introduced the cooling. Before we were just a tracker. Okay. And that is what made the big difference, right? So being able to really adjust the temperature, heating and cooling, that's the game changer. First, obviously the first units, I started testing Proto number 1, Proto number 2, and so they were pretty sketchy. And
you're like, is this thing gonna electrocute me?
Exactly. So I went through that part, and then some of my investors went through that part as well. And now hopefully is a way more polished product.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you, so your first few investors, you just let them, hey, here, try this product, see if it improves your sleep. Let me know what you think. Is that kind of how you did it? Or did you automatically go around and start pitching, VCs and stuff like that?
More the latter, meaning the real game changer was when Keith Rabois invested when he was at Tesla, and they really gave us the money to build the cooling, the heating and cooling, so the current Pod Pro. And so we didn't have it yet, but then we started executing, and in a matter of a few months, we had the first prototype, and then they started sleeping on it, and then we kept improving the product.
That's awesome. So yeah, 2019 is when you introduced the cooling piece, which from what I've heard on, a few different podcasts, that's a big component of it. So really that has become a core, feature of your product, and enables better sleep overall. So in terms of, I'm curious, because if that controls the temperature under the covers, the mattress and everything, does it really matter what the outside temperature is? Like if you've got the house set to 75 degrees or something?
Not much, meaning because you are in contact, that is the most important temperature setting. Obviously, if you go to a very warm temperature or a very cold temperature, that can still have an impact on some of your extremities. But I would say 80-20 is all about your bed temperature.
Awesome.
And the ability to adjust, right? Because again, it's very important that the temperature changes during the night. And so maybe you can set the temperature at 68 in the bedroom, but that doesn't adjust. And so the bed instead has the ability to adjust based on your biometrics.
Very cool. And you said the algorithm automatically kind of updates and lets you know, hey, instead of 68 degrees, we're going to do 70 degrees tonight.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how frequently does that change? Is it kind of week at a time, like a week at 68 degrees, and then they track the metrics and then it makes recommendations, or is it just every single night?
It could even be every single night. It depends again on weather. It also changes during the night, right? And so in particular, the more the models become intelligent, the more they will be able to adjust multiple times during each night. And the temperature can change based on sleep stages. So there is where we are going.
Interesting. So is there a trend? I know it's obviously, it depends on the person, the gender, if they worked out in the afternoon, like so many different things, if they're on their period or anything like that. But is there something you see, like as you go into deeper sleep, is it supposed to get colder?
Yeah.
Is that the trend? It just gets colder and then it warms you up as you wake back up?
Yeah, so as soon as you fall asleep, temperature should drop. So while you're asleep, you should be in a colder environment. It should be the coldest while you are in deep sleep, while instead it should be in what is called thermal neutrality while you are in REM. So while you're in REM, the brain deactivates the control of the temperature of the body compared to the air temperature. And so to get more REM, you want to be in an environment that is considered safe by your brain, which means it's not cold and it's not hot. But instead in deep sleep, you can go as cold as you want and as you can.
Wow. That's interesting. I guess it's once you're in deep sleep, it doesn't matter, because I found for myself, if it's too cold, it's like you're shivering and you're having a hard time falling asleep. But once you're deep sleep, it doesn't matter. Your body can adjust to that. So that's interesting to note as well.
Yeah. And it's still personal, right? So for
Yeah.
you or for me, there's also blood circulation, right? Otherwise, certain extremities that could get cold. But even there, then you can play with the settings.
Absolutely. So when you mentioned earlier about wanting to move more into preventative and controlling everything, air quality, lights and things like that, are you thinking about introducing new products that complement the current product line? Is that kind of what's in your vision?
Yeah, more products, more sensors in the current product, and obviously a lot of software updates. So our product is in general overbuilt, because we know that over time we will release software updates like Tesla. And so maybe you don't have a certain feature today, but when you wake up in the morning, but you will have it by the time you go to sleep.
That's cool. Okay, I like that. So you overbuilt it intentionally with the ability to create the software necessary for those future settings.
Correct.
Very cool. Very cool. So what's something that that you're probably struggling with, like now, that you don't mind sharing, just maybe personally, like in your own journey, your own entrepreneurial journey? Because obviously I see a lot of founders, maybe they're not great at one thing, or they don't like doing presentations or public speaking. Is there anything that you could share, like tips just as a personal founder, on how to overcome something you're struggling with?
I'm usually very forward looking. And so I always struggle to celebrate the achievement because I'm already thinking about the next thing.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah. And so if I have an area where I should raise my own bar, is to celebrate at least for I don't know, 1 hour with my team before setting the new goals. And so, yeah, that part.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I read in Tools of Titans, Tim Ferriss said something similar. He struggles to really celebrate the wins, because as high achiever, he's looking at the next thing, like what's the next mountain to climb.
It's never enough.
It's never enough. Yeah. But I think I've also heard people say, just for a tip for the audience, that give yourself like the 24 hours rule, like celebrate for a day. If you won the Super Bowl, for example, don't just go and start training that night, like celebrate with the team that night, wake up, maybe sleep in a little bit, and then start training again. So like you said, just take a moment to celebrate for an hour or something, with the team, and then jump back into it, so that you're not always like, okay, I hit all these great goals, but what's next?
Yeah.
And that's good. I'm sure your investors love it. It's obviously great to have a high performing person who's driven and self-motivated. But it does sometimes make it kind of like, man, I'm not there yet, because you're always moving on to that next thing. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I saw in your bio too that you've always been obsessed with performance. So this makes sense. It says athletic, business, and now sleep. And so you're actually a competitive ski racer back in Italy, and you played tennis and race cars on the European stage. So you did all kinds of things. Do you still do those?
Those are my three favorite sports.
Those are your three favorite?
Yeah, to practice, yes. So ski, tennis, and motorsport are the three things I'm the most passionate about. Then I watch a bunch of sports, and I play other sports, but those are the three where I spend most of my time when I was a teenager.
Awesome. So you still watch those now? Do you participate in them pretty often?
Yeah. I still race with cars. Now with COVID less, but before COVID, I did the 12 hours of Abu Dhabi and I finished third. I still play tennis quite a bit. I'm a fitness geek. So I also try to optimize my health every day to really, maximize my performance. So I don't know, I'm on a keto diet. I fast 22-2. Just went to bed recently.
22-2 every day?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Except weekend, because usually I have a sort of lunch with my wife and then dinner. But during the week, I always fast 22-2.
Wow. So for anyone listening who doesn't know what that is, so you fast for 22 hours and you have a 2-hour window that you eat in. Are you just eating one meal, like a very big meal?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's really a 23.5. Okay, you eat for 15 minutes, but yes.
Geez. Okay. I've done like the 16-8, but I guess 22-2 is the next level. I always love talking to people who are dialing things in through fasting, keto. So it sounds like you really have that dialed in. And now, of course, obviously you've been doing your sleep for some time and testing and tweaking with your own product. So all very great things. And then I know we've got a couple of minutes left, but I'd love to see, I always love to ask high performers, how do you balance it all? Do you have a certain routine? Do you time block, like Tuesdays is a certain day for podcast, for example? Is there any methodology, or is it just like kind of however you can fit things in?
No, I'm pretty obsessed with my calendar. I actually receive a weekly report on how I spend my time. All the meetings are back to back. I block time for thinking every day. There are certain days, like usually on Wednesday, where I start slightly later because I just go to the beach to walk and think on my own about business. I also use a practice that I call stillness. So I try to spend at least 30 minutes a day just sitting somewhere doing nothing. You cannot walk, you cannot listen to anything, you cannot watch anything. You just need to let your monkey mind go crazy until when it starts finding clarity. That was very impactful. And I train every morning. So I wake up, I have my routine, I start training, then I start reviewing documents.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I'm writing all this down because I'm also trying to hack everything, morning routine, waking up at a certain time, going to bed, nighttime routine. So 30 minutes of stillness, but I also really love how you have reports on your weekly calendar to see how are you spending your time. So, because sometimes you get to the end of the week and you're like, was it a good week? Did I have productive meetings? Like I was busy, but was I effective? And so this way you can say, like, I feel like I was busy, but what did I do? Oh, here we go. I did this many podcasts, did a call with the investors, talk to the manufacturer, for example. So you're able to quickly see out of view. And is that just an email from an assistant, or you have somebody like just summarize your calendar for you?
Yeah, I have an Excel and she fills it out with all the data of the week. So I know how many hours I worked and where did I spend my time. So I have a lot of different categories. And then I also receive an automatic survey every Sunday about a couple of areas in health and mental clarity and focus and energy. So I can track myself over time. Plus I use any wearable you can think of. And so I'm trying to put together as much data as possible to then maximize my performance.
Very cool. And do you do I'm just curious, just selfishly, because I've been thinking about doing this, but I don't know what the frequency needs to be. Do you do like a frequent blood test as well, just to track all those levels, like maybe monthly or something? And if so, what's the frequency?
Yeah. During COVID, I started doing a bit less frequently. There was a time where I was doing it monthly. Now I probably do it at least quarterly.
Okay.
But the key when you do blood tests is not just doing the blood test, but is the type of blood test. Because most of the times the standard one is not that relevant. And so you need to look into steroids or hormones or all these other submetrics. And now there is also a new blood test that is actually very expensive. I think it's called Grail blood test. And that is extremely valuable to detect early signs of cancers through blood.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you for sharing. So you used to do monthly and now that was before COVID. Now you're doing more like quarterly, and you've got, do you know how to read that stuff pretty well? Or your physician kind of just tells you, hey, this is what this means?
I just do with a service on online. Let's Get Checked, and there you can buy all these different type of tests. And I buy like, I don't know, 10, 15 at the time, whatever, I don't remember. But I track all these different biometrics because otherwise the standard blood test is not that valuable. And then the other thing I use is a CGM, the continuous glucose monitor. And so I checked on my diet what has the biggest impact on my glucose spikes.
Uses a CGM as well. Okay, awesome. I'm writing that down. So you do practice what you preach. You track all these different biometric numbers. I really love it. And I appreciate you sharing. So you're a high performer. You love doing fun stuff like skiing and racing and things like that, but you're also very dedicated to getting quality sleep, performing at your highest level. And those are things that I think every entrepreneur and business owner, really every person, should aspire to achieve as well in their own lives. So Matteo, I know we've reached the end of our time here today, but thank you so much for your time. Where can our audience go to learn more about you and 8 Sleep and just everything that you're up to?
Yeah, go on our website, 8sleep.com, 8 like the number, EIGHT sleep.com. And there will be me on the homepage. I'm pretty active on Twitter. So you can follow me there and you can DM me there if you want to have a chat.
Perfect. I will link all that up in the show notes and I'll let your team know as soon as the episode goes live. Thank you once again, Matteo. Great connecting with you and great sharing your story today.
Thank you, Chris.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being a listener to the show and for checking out my message. If you've been here for a while, I'm especially grateful for you. But if you're new here, thank you once again for being a listener. Just wanted to let you know, I help people buy, sell, or rent real estate across the nation in the US. I probably could even help you across the world, but it just gets a little more difficult with time zones and setting up times to chat. If you have any questions at all, shoot me a DM on Instagram. My handle is chrisbello_, or you can also go to my website, chrisbello.com/real estate. Again, that is chrisbello.com/real estate. Happy to help any way that I can. And thank you once again for being a listener.